Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video here. On this video I want to go over a really cool alternate picking exercise, not exercise but sequence, and some ideas that I found on alternate picking as a result of that. Okay, now I'm going to switch my setting here to the John Petrucci sound because it's not got a lot of delay and everything, but it's still got that nice chunk that you want for an alternate picking. Okay, still got a lot of good sound, not a lot of delay or anything. And this is a lick that I discovered a while back, and it's just playing around. I originally learned alternate picking from watching Paul Gilbert's Intense Rock, Volume 1, and that really whips your picking into shape. If you got the patience to sit down and watch all that, and then more power to you. I watched it, but I want to go back from time to time and kind of brush up on some of those techniques, because he is a master player, and it blows me away how fast he can get and how clean he can get on the guitar. But like I said, originally these sequences I learned from him, and then you just kind of build off what you know from that, and you kind of build your own thing. So I think if I can get this right, let's see what this sounds like. And that's not as clean as I'd like it, but let's try it with the bridge pickup. Still not as clean as I like to get it. I still need to practice it more, but anyway, this is basically starting on the 7th fret, and we're going to use the shape of whole plus a half. That's basically the first part of the shape, okay? And that's alternate picking, down, up, down, the first 3, up, down, up on the next 3. Now that's not the picking for the sequence, that's just the picking for the scale. What we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go up 4 and then back down all the way down to the bottom here. So the first stroke should be a down stroke. Crossing the string to the A string should be an upstroke on the 7th fret, and then back down with a downstroke. The last note's a downstroke, and then we continue up the scale. So that's all. Okay, now that's the pattern for all these sections. If you know that in one section, you can use it for the rest of them. For example, if I tried to go back and use this in all the different scale shapes, I could go back and see what I can find here. Let's see, this is an E. If I could go back to E, and just keep going on and on. Now this wasn't in E. This was actually in B, the B minor scale. But it was leading, when I played this, I was leading on up to an E shape, or an E scale, I think. So that's what we got so far. Now we're going to take and do the same thing on this string and the A string. We're going to repeat that. Okay, so it's the same 3 things. Trying to think if that's even part of the scale or if I just made that up. I probably just made some of that up. Okay, I see what I did now. I was actually using the E scale, so let me go backtrack here a little bit. The actual shape is going to be, instead of whole half, that is a shape for a scale, but it's actually going to be half whole. So we're going to go 7, 8, 10 on the E string, and then on the next string we're going to keep that whole half. So that's going to be 7, 9, 10. 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10. Okay? And that'd be a good exercise for your practice. Just sit there and do it over and over again. And that last note is an upstroke, so it allows you to come back down on that E string. Okay, so that's a good little practice for you to do, and you can kind of ramp that up as you go with a metronome. Just increase the speed little by little. And the next thing we're going to do is the 2 wholes and a half. So that's going to be, we're going to resume this shape on the A string. Okay. Okay, so just remember the tough part is probably that string cross, as Paul Gilbert says in Intense Rock 1. He goes down, and the upstroke is probably the toughest part, because you're crossing the string and then having to come back down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move up, and once again we're going to start on the same string we ended with, that being the D string, but I'm going to move up a whole step, and the whole plus a half is now going to become a half plus a whole, just like the first one was. It's actually the octave of the first one. So if I did the first one, this one's going to be the octave. They're actually both going to start with a B note. Okay, so I'm just going to move from here and do a really quick shift. Okay, you might want to practice the shift. This is another technique Paul teaches a lot, is practicing any shifts. Let's see. So you might want to practice that. So that's going to start with an upstroke if we practice just the shift. Up, down, down. Okay, now that feels weird starting with an upstroke, but in the sequence, when you get to that point, it's going to be an upstroke. Upstroke. Okay, so we're actually mimicking the first pattern. So we're playing the first pattern twice. Once around the first time, and when we do the shift, we're going to do the exact same shape. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing. And then all I'm doing is coming up to that number right there, which is an A. And that kind of was to hold the suspense out there when I got back to the E. Now another thing I'm doing is I'm palm muting this, so that's what we're getting. If I did this open, for one thing, it would be a little bit louder and it would be a little noisier, and it wouldn't have that finesse of the palm mute. Okay, it really kind of filters that note and really brings out a sweet spot in it that you can't get really any other way. The other thing that's tricky is not only the upstroke, but remembering the last note, the sixth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth note, after you play it, you got to come back down to this other note and play again on the same string. And that begins the sequence over again. So we're starting on the 7th fret. Then we begin on the 7th fret again on the A string. Then we begin again, it's going to be on a different fret, but it's still going to be on the same string. That's the important thing you need to remember. It's still going to be on the same string. So the second 3 notes of the scale is where you're going to start that same string. You're going to start for the next sequence. So there's the second 3 notes: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you'll notice, my picking hand is not moving much at all. If you'll refer to a video I previously recorded about the review between the Jazz 3 and the Dunlop John Petrucci Jazz 3, this little mini Jazz 3 really helped me control that picking a lot so that I wasn't flying all over the place. Okay, so I recommend maybe trying one of those out if you're having problems picking. And you've already done a lot of studying and things like that, and nothing seems to be helping. Change your pickup a little bit and it will kind of force you to think differently, especially if it's a different shape. If it's a smaller shape and smaller surface area, this is really going to cause you to hone in and control your picking a lot more. So let's play that sequence slow, and then medium, and then up to speed to see what we get. Hey, so that was medium, so let's go slower. Okay, so that's what happens as a result. Now, I hope you got that. I hope I've explained it a lot, but enough. But what I really want to get onto is what I realized when I did this. And with Paul Gilbert's style of playing on Intense Rock, he plays a sequence, and then he moves up to the next note. So what I did was I played 4 strings in the scale, actually 3 strings of the scale, instead of moving up immediately. And then I moved up later. I decided to move up later in the scale to a shape I was more familiar with. Instead of having to learn all different shapes all the way across, it would be something like this. And I would just have to have these weird shapes. I decided to stick with the shapes I'm comfortable with before switching. And then I switched and played the first one over again. And then I just, to end the phrase, I went to that. But I could continue going on with that. That would lead to a different feeling though, because once you switch to the B string, it's tuned differently. So you it's a little half step off from where you were. Still the same shape, half plus a whole, but then you have to move up half a step because of the B string. And you can play that same sequence again as you did before on the first one. Okay, so if I played that, it would be actually, but I didn't want to play the whole sequence. I just wanted to end on that note. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is what I realized is that I don't have to adhere to, it's not written in stone that I have to adhere to play it just exactly like the greats do, because they know what they're doing and all that. And find all these weird scale shapes. I decided to stick with what I know and then slide upward. Okay, so let's say I went somewhere else. Let's say I went down here to this section on the E. So now I've got a whole, or a half and a whole twice. Half step, whole step, starting on the 2nd fret. So it's 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5. And let's say, what's the next one? Okay, so I'm kind of familiar with that one. That's 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. Well, let's say the next one I don't know very well. Actually, that one I do know very well. It's the one we just did. But the next one may be different because of the B string. So let's just hypothetically. Another thing you want to do is be able to get up and work your way up the fretboard. So if I stay here with things I'm familiar with, it's really going to hinder my playing because I'm not going to get outside that comfort zone. So I'll try something like. And I would switch up there because now we're in the octave of this one, which means it's the same exact shape for both because they're both starting on an F sharp note. And I can do the same thing up here, starting on the 7th fret. Okay, but let's say I wanted to move that up instead of switching it there, I want to stay where I'm familiar with. Then switch it. And maybe, but you get the point. Hopefully you get the idea is if you don't want to adhere to the strict rules, change it up and make it something that you can do, that is more familiar with you. Now, obviously, I wanted to make it sound like it's moving up the fretboard, so if I stayed in the same area with this shape, there would be that long stretch I'm not familiar with. And then another scale shape change. Then we finally get two shapes that are the same. That's another thing that I was looking for, is trying to get some of the same shapes that I was playing, so it would make it that much easier. I'd already played this shape, so when I switched, it was to play that shape again. And if I kept going, I would switch it to where I'd eventually play that shape again. Because it's so much easier when you're playing octaves, starting on the same note on every other string. Starting on the E string, I'll start on the B note here, 7th fret. Then I'll start on the B note here on the 9th fret. Then I'll start on the B note here on the 12th fret. When you're switching to the B notes though, you have to remember it's not exactly 2 frets over and 2 strings down. Because of the B string, the way it's tuned, you have to kind of go a minor third up. In other words, 1, 2, 3 frets over instead of 2 frets over. You just kind of have to remember that. That's one of the bad things about the flaws about the guitar being tuned the way it is. Okay, so that's the lesson for this time. I just wanted to maybe give you some ideas, good sequence practice that you can work on, and some ideas to make things your own. Don't feel like you have to be limited to what the professionals do. They became professionals by finding what worked for them, and they're just teaching you what worked for them. So I'm teaching you what worked for me, and that is switching when I'm running out of shapes that I'm familiar with, or switching when I want to duplicate a shape that I am familiar with to my advantage. Okay, and another thing you could do is if you're not, if you don't like picking everything, another thing that I did was, and I learned this from cracking the code that I mentioned in a previous video about the review, is that I don't have to play every pick. I don't have to play every pick note. I can just hammer on the first 3 notes, pick the one, and hammer on the next 2. Now notice my picking hand, it's not going to pick everything this time. So I'm picking the first note, the upstroke, and then back down, and then the first note again, and then alternate picking starting that upstroke. So if I'm finding that all this alternate picking is hard to do, I switch my picking around too. But for me, it's not as hard to do. Now, when I was playing, like when I tried to learn technical difficulties, the whole really fast runs, that stuff is tough to get it that fast because I tense up. So what I ended up doing was doing the first 3 notes, doing a pick and then hammer, and then focusing my efforts on that up down up stroke on the A string. That's a tough one to do anyway. Okay, that's a tough song to do anyway, but anyway, I found ways to work around that worked for me. Okay, so that's your lesson for today. Find ways to work around some of the areas that you're having the most trouble with and just make it work for you. Don't feel like you're cheating because you're eliminating pick strokes or you're playing the same shape all up and down the neck. You'd be surprised if you really pay attention when they do these big scalar runs, and I learned this from Paul Gilbert mostly, when he did these scale runs like this. When you're going that far up the neck, most of the time it's playing the same shape all across the same strings. That's whole and half. Once again, the octave. And you can hear that that's the same shape. Now going backwards it's a little different because you got to practice switching with the pinky beginning the note. Okay, so that's one thing you can practice is those octaves, because that really makes a difference. But anyway, this is getting to be like 3 or 4 lessons in one. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and say thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate your support, and let me know what you think about the Canon HFR40 camcorder that I'm using right now. It really looks really good on the LCD screen. I can't wait to see what it looks like on the picture. By the way, before I forget, this is actually just for my personal reference. I'm recording this at should be 1080p, 30 frames a second, MP4, and 17 MPS. I don't know if that's megabits per second, but I'm going to consider it that. I'm going to do several different things, and I'm also recording with the ATR 3350 lavalier microphone. I'm going to try different schematics. I'm going to try recording with the speakers that come on the on the camera, they're stereo. I'm going to try recording at a higher bit rate, megabits per second or whatever, and just see which is easiest to work with on the computer as well as looks the best. I'm trying to find a good balance between those. So just for my personal reference, this and the John Petrucci review pick that I did with the little Jazz, the Jazz 3, both done in should be 1080p, 30 frames per second, and 17 megabits per second. All right. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you guys on whatever the next video may be. And if it's still, I don't know if Christmas will be over with by now or not, but if not, maybe this will be the New Year's video. I'm not sure. So have a great Christmas. Have a happy New Year. Here's to achieving your goals on guitar or whatever it may be. Just keep plugging away at it. It's with me, I've learned you got to be patient with anything that's worthwhile, and you'll get there if you keep working at it. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my new blog, ericbeatty.com. Check out, if you'd like to learn more about playing electric guitar, check out www.secretsoftexasbluesguitar.com. And by now, the webisodes for Bluegrass Guitar Essentials should be released. I'll be really soon working on getting the DVD version of that out. It shouldn't take no more than a month or two, hopefully, if I can find the right person to do it. And that's available at www.bluegrassguitaressentials.com. Stay tuned for a lot more videos coming your way, and for keeping on updates other than YouTube, just make sure to check out that blog at www.ericbeatty.com, where I'll be maybe doing any kind of updates or anything like that other than a mailing list with products and things like that I got going on. So definitely want to focus more on my writing this coming year in 2015. But I can still say that there's going to be plenty of guitar videos because ideas keep popping up in my head. So there's no shortage of that. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll get off here before I start rambling, and I'll see you guys in the new year. Talk to you later, and God bless.